latest news and programs. I'm glad you're here to listen to wonderful program coming to you. And please don't forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Thank you for watching. Yeah, welcome again to KJTV. Dr. Nimo on the studio. I know last time we talked about Kenya and the demonstration about Raila going on the streets, which has been going on, which came into a standstill. But is Kenya headed in the right direction now that they want to talk? We have had recently even the vice president, they're saying Kenya is broke. There's no money. Even in the economic advisor to the president, Dr. Ndii also said there is no money. They are not even paying salary. What is your take on that? What's going on in Kenya?
First of all, again, thank you so much for inviting me to the studio today. I know the last time we were here on the studio, it was a few days before the demonstrations were to begin. And they began, and indeed, we saw what happened. And now there was a ceasefire when the two of them agreed to talk. Right now, I can tell you that it's talking about talks that are going to be talks. They haven't really arrived at the consensus on exactly the agenda that would be talked about. But it was a good ceasefire that the government side was able to see the reason behind why they should talk. And first of all, before even we say about the state of the economy, the social unrest was because of the state of the economy in the first place.
Yeah.
And the fact that the government was using brutal force to stop people from their civil rights, it became fairly untenable for them to continue doing so. That's why they were able to put their egos aside to talk about talks.
Yeah.
And which is a good thing. And calm is good, but it's quiet calm that may come back with force if those talks really collapse, as it appears like they might. But hopefully they will not collapse. However fruitful the talks will be, the most critical fundamental things that the Kenyans are asking for is the cost of living. And
which the government to be going down.
Which is really, as I hear as we speak today, $1 is now trading at 140 something Kenya shillings, which is really untenable. I mean, Kenya is more of a consumer society which imports most of its goods, and when the value of the shilling is just so valueless, as I would say, then the cost of living is going to keep going up and up and up and up. So that's not going to be a good situation. So the direction in which Kenya is headed to cut the long story short, it's not the right direction.
So how did we get here? Now, what is the cause that things have come to this
level? Really, there is a multiple causes of how we got ourselves into this situation we are in. I have mentioned this before in one of your programs, telling you that the environment in which Kenya finds itself, especially the government bureaucracies, aren't very conducive for people business to operate. Even before the Ruto administration came to force, it will take you 2 to 3 months to even establish a business in Kenya. And you and I know that the economy of the United States, for example, almost 70% of it is driven by private small businesses.
Yeah.
People are earning their living from the small businesses. But on the other hand, in Kenya, it's the government that is the biggest employer in Kenya, which should be the exact opposite. What we can do, and I can tell you this, for example, I know, and I mentioned this on one of your programs, that it takes a long time for one to establish a business because of government bureaucracies. In fact, you start paying tax before you even start a business. Which really kills so many startups, and that's how we got ourselves here. That's the number one thing. Number two, now the new Ruto administration came into force, and they started imposing extra taxes upon the taxes already that they were paying. And therefore the producers As the small businesses, the big businesses have no incentive to produce more because all of their money is going to go into taxes. So the fastest way to kill an economy is to keep taxing. They're already taxed. So
Actually,
that's how we got ourselves here today.
Actually, the economy, it's all a matter of perception. I think when Ruto came to power, there was a lack of confidence, investor confidence in Kenya. It was reported many investors were leaving Kenya because he sent the signal, even the kind of people he appointed who were corrupt. For example, the deputy president, who had a case which went to court, and he had to forfeit the money because he got money through corruption, which was over 200 million. And when he went there, the case collapsed. We saw many cases of corruption went back. And that one alone sent a wrong signal in the country.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. So the first signals he sent was like, hey, the government in power today doesn't care about the rule of law. Exactly. And business, especially investors, are very sensitive on how arbitration will go in case there's something, business deals always go wrong. They need to know that the courts will be the neutral arbiters in any situation that will be find themselves in. When they realize that the government itself, now the government in power, is actually not caring about it, but they're bringing in people who are of questionable characters, especially in key government positions. And then they are holding back their paths. They're holding back their investment. In fact, it's not only that they're taking away, even those that are actually wanting to come in are now putting a pause. Now, when they put a pause on that, it means that the inflow of capital investment, and therefore the dollar that is so much needed, is not coming in. Yeah, and plus what I just mentioned there, production has gone low. Production, even the local businesses, production has gone low. And when there's low production, there's less taxes. So if you increase taxes, you reduce the incentive of people working harder because the money is not going to their pockets. Yeah. So it's a multiple, like I mentioned, it's a multiple reasons. And I think I wish Ndi, who is an economic advisor, could have advised him that you cannot start with taxes. You cannot start with taxes.
You cannot start with taxes.
No. When an economy is on its deathbed.
See, even why is it that now the revenue they are collecting from KRA has shortened, has fallen short, actually in terms of revenue collection?
Absolutely, because he started with taxes. Remember, a few cases of the high-profile people who were tax evaders are now in government. I'm not sure if there are a few of them that he actually put in charge of KRA themselves.
And somebody who had been having, this lady who has been having a problem with the KRA, and then now
he put in charge of KRA. Yeah. So what message are you sending? That the abuser of KRA tax collection is the one who is now in charge. I mean, he sent a long message, and Kenyans who are actually good people who are paying taxes will now say, you know what? The people who have been evading taxes are now the people in charge. Why do I even care about paying taxes? So they will pull back their own good citizenship on paying taxes, and they say, you know what? Let them do what they have to do, and this is how we find ourselves there now. So we are not headed in the right direction until he has to completely change the course.
Take, for example, during more than a week ago, when actually criminals broke into Kenyatta's farm and they stole things, there were no police, and even nobody has been arrested. Even the majority leader in the parliament, Ichungwa, was preempted this. I want you to listen to this clip.
Nairobi hapo Ruiru. Kabla hatujaenda Taita Taveta, kabla hatujaenda Nakuru, mali ya Mkenya ikivamiwa, hata hizo mashamba zenyu tutazivamia, na wenye hawana mashamba wapate mashamba Kenya hii. Musifikiri ati wananchi wa kawaida ndio watapoteza mali. Even you will pay a price if you continue to instigate violence and bloodshed in this country.
That was Ichungwa, who was preempted. He 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 was preempted who was speaking that, and it happened.
Yeah, just a few days before, exactly what he said happened, and I don't see how he can exonerate himself from what happened. And indeed, it's very sad for a government that really rode on the back of the hustlers coming into power, and they promised that they would use the rule of law to do what they did. I don't see how even the Ruto government and administration exonerating themselves from invading that farm. I mean, that was the lowest of the low that Kenya has ever sunk into, to attack the properties of an immediate former president. And I want you to remember this. Moi was in power for 24 years, and the economy was really bad when the Kibaki administration came into power. And there was even political persecutions, there was tensions, there were so many evils that happened during the Moi administration. But when the Kibaki administration came into power, they never looked back. They looked forward. They never went back revenging. They looked forward. And you saw how the economy grew in its bounds. Now, here is a government that has been handed over to them. Within 6 months, they are looking back. They want to revenge. They completely have forgotten their mission. Their mission is to serve Kenyans. Now, their mission right now, you can tell, is not about serving Kenyans. It appears their mission is to revenge, political revenge, which never really serves Kenyans.
Yeah. Now, what are we going to do now? Even members of parliament, you know, one thing I was happy, even members of parliament have not been paid. I think that is the right way. If they should pay civil servants and they pay the lawmakers last, that is when they would feel the pinch. Maybe they would put. Now, county governments are broke. They have not dispersed money to county governments. What is your take on that? What will you advise the government to do? Because if county governments are not having money, the civil servants are not paid, what is likely to happen?
You know, two things should have happened immediately then when they swore to be the new administration in Kenya. That's 7-8 months ago, or I think 7 or 8 months ago. So they knew exactly, you know, Ruto was in the previous administration. He knew where the economy was. He knew the state of the economy. He cannot exonerate himself every time he points fingers at the handshake. He was part of that administration. He was the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya for 10 years. So he had all full knowledge of where we were in terms of the national debt. So the first thing he will have come was to renegotiate the debt of the Republic of Kenya, so that he can tell them, you know, some of the debt is coming due, and I knew it came due this last month of March.
Yeah.
And therefore they had to meet those obligations. And I know some more debt is going to be due within the next several months. Unless they sit back and pull back and talk to their debts and renegotiate and maybe a refinance kind of thing, so that they can postpone or even find a way of restructuring the debt in a manner that will not really hit the economy the way it is. Because if you don't pay the civil servants, then you are dead. The economy is gone. It's gone, because as it is right now, even even when they are paid salaries, they're always asking for bribes, and that's where the economy never really grows. The bureaucracy in the government is so worse. Tell me how it will be when they are not even paid.
And you see that one is the one likely, and when you see if this middle class people go to the street, then it will be seriously bad. How do you compare this? Kenya looks like heading the same direction Sri Lanka was heading. Because if we are missing the dollar reserve, we don't have enough dollar reserve, and it's dwindling, going down, and we can't pay our obligations. Then are we not likely to go to Sri Lanka way?
Maybe not. Our economies, you know, when Ruto came into power, you all remember the first place he visited, although it was more like an accident, was Europe. I mean, England, and then the US around the same week. So he's a darling of the West, I would say, since the Kibaki administration. In fact, since all the way back. If you look at the history of the last 3 presidents, Ruto is more cozy to the West than it is the previous 3 presidents. They had looked to the East. And now, you know, Kenya has more debt from the East than it is from the West. So if I were Ruto, I would really talk to my friends, his friends in the West, including the United States and UK, to renegotiate that debt, and maybe the US and the UK can pick up the tabs and take and buy that debt off so that he can restructure that debt. That's the first thing he should do, because he can use those friendships. You had the ambassador of the United States the other day when they were having an economic summit in Nairobi, how eloquent he talked about Kenya and how beautiful it is to do business in Kenya. You cannot do a business with somebody who's broke. You cannot do a business with somebody who is broke. So that's my advice. He can use those strings so that they can help him out. It's really going to be bad. It's not gotten bad yet. I'm going to warn you this. It's going to be worse before it starts getting better.
But if you look at Kenya's, that is Kenya's government expenditure in years, you can see expenditure when Kibaki left office. But if you can see from there, 2013, 2014, 2015, it goes 2016. From there, we ballooned. That is how government expenditure went up. Up to 20, you see where we had gone in terms of expenditure in Kenya. Why all of a sudden that expenditure, that Kenya's economic grew, of course, and also the government expenditure went up?
I'm not sure. I didn't know what those numbers meant. Was it that recurrent expenditure, or was it also development?
That's the recurrent expenditure.
So when you see so much go to recurrent expenditure, and then it's questioned, because sometimes most of the money should go to a small percentage of the money, of course, that is raised goes to or providing services to the public, and they are paying salaries and other things. But what I didn't know was the breakdown of the development expenditure.
No, there was that was only recurrent expenditure.
Recurrent expenditure.
Yeah.
So
it ballooned so large.
I don't know what informs you about who explains it.
Probably, we created 47 governments also. Would it be
soon after? Yes, that could be the reason why, because the additional 47 mini governments now came into force. Because I think when they took over, that's when the new constitution was being implemented. Maybe we need to relook and see, does the economy of Kenya really, can it sustain 47 mini governments? Because you all know, you and I know, and we know this from the immediate past administration of Kisii County, for example. That's just one example, where there were hundreds and hundreds of ghost workers.
Yeah.
If every county has hundreds and hundreds of ghost workers, you can see why that current expenditure went up.
Yeah.
There's an unethical behavior in our leadership. In counties.
I think there is a lot of wastage in counties in the way the governors are left. I think they need to look in how we are spending money in counties. I mean, the idea of devolution is good, but I think the governors are left great latitude in deciding who to employ, and even the salaries. Some of them are abnormal salaries.
Absolutely, and not just abnormal salaries, but think about. I'm not sure. I watched a clip there someday where they mentioned that they had 85 county government drivers in Kisii County, for example.
Yeah.
And yet the county government had only less than, 60 vehicles.
82 vehicles.
82 vehicles against 200 plus drivers. So one wonders how many other departments similarly situated will be having ghost workers doing nothing, completely nothing. So people are paid for not producing. So if you are paying people for not producing, eventually you will not have anything to pay them because they are not producing anything to be paid.
Yeah.
So it's simple. It's not even one-on-one economics. It's a simple high school economics that somebody has to produce in order for them to be paid.
You see, even President Ruto appointed 51 chief administrative secretaries. when actually even the previous government, they were only 21. Now he doubled them just, and he was dishing to his friends because he wants to put them in office, and they're going to spend a lot of money to pay. Was it really necessary? Even if when people went to court, it's unconstitutional, but was it necessary?
It wasn't absolutely, but it's very necessary from his perspective because he's looking at 2027. So the friends, as you may have gone through the list, are his political friends from various regions in Kenya, and he was trying to consolidate his pace for the next election. So it's not, yes, it was very necessary, only selfish reasons for his next election. But from the Kenyan perspective, from the Hasra perspective, that's more like a bleeding ground for more corruption, more money going out, which money he said was not even there in the first place. Because I remember the first statement they made was there was only 97 million shillings in the treasury when they arrived. And within a few weeks, by the way, he was able to establish an Hasra fund of 50 billion. So you wonder where the 50 billion came from to establish an Hasra fund. Yet when they arrived, there was only 97 million Kenyan shillings in the treasury.
I saw some people accusing that the money is being stored in care areas. They have a conduit where money is collected, but it's being diverted. Some allegations were in the air that they are taking money out. Would you think that would be true? That's the reason, or it's just a form of revenue?
Yes, like you mentioned, it's rumors, and rumors are rumors until otherwise proven true.
That's true.
But when there's lack of information of why we don't have enough resources, yet the resources were there when they arrived, anything is possible. And you're talking of Kenya, where anything is possible. Remember when they arrived, in there, they have already raised taxes on very essential commodities like electricity, like other commodities, where people are paying more taxes than they used to. Yeah. And when you pay more taxes, people may not be able to afford, even the little they were affording this time, they're not even buying it. Therefore, you are not even collecting more money for you to pay the employees and that. So it's gonna be a circle. If you tax more, people stop consuming. When they stop consuming, then you don't collect anything now.
You can't tax people. If you want to increase, you reduce even the taxes so that you can spark the economy. When the economy is bad, that is when you have to reduce the taxes. So that
remember 3 years ago when the pandemic hit the United States, the government instead was putting money in people's pockets. They were actually sending checks to people and saying, you know what, if you have a family like this, we're giving you $3,000. Why? Because they wanted people to consume. When you consume, you go down to the street, you buy more, and then the producer will start producing, and then the jobs are kept. But if the economy is bad, and then you tax more people, I don't know where that economics is coming from. I thought Ndii understands how the economy works.
You know, there is economic theory and there is economic practice. Probably maybe Ndii understands more economic theory than practice.
Yeah, that's how it's sounding back to.
Accused vendor can give you advice in how the economy, what you should do to help the economy. And one of the things you could see, like Kenyatta dependent on the business people. You could call business people into a meeting, like CEOs, like those who own companies. Call people like Ikirubi to get some advice, because these are the people who really understand where the rubber meets the road. And probably that's why we say Ndii could be having a good theories, but you need to understand the people who live daily in this business and understand.
Correct. Yeah. and remember the people that used to advise him had coalesced around the president, the candidature of Raila Odinga. And those are the money guys. Yeah. Maybe they're pulling back and just saying, you know what, for now, let's wait and see. So they're pulling back their investments and money is not in circulation at all. Yeah. So we don't know whether, and I'm saying this, I don't know, but I can't accuse anybody. There's a possibility that they're not really happy with the direction in which the country is heading to. So they are holding back from reinvesting their hard-earned money back into the economy.
Yeah. You know, like, if you see when the language people like Rigathi Gachagua talks, it's so vitriol. I think they need to tone it down. And it was a good gesture that he said he's going to talk to Raila. And I've kind of seen even Rigathi Gachagua now doesn't have much to say, because such a language is not good for the country, for sure. If he has to do that, he has to fight corruption. He has to be seen fighting corruption, which the president rarely never talks about corruption. I don't know why.
It went back to the back burner. How can you talk about corruption when all corruption cases were dropped? How? I don't know how, because you know, the DPP dropped all those corruption cases. They all corrupt.
Yeah.
They all corrupt. And I don't know how you can start talking about it without talking about some of his best friends who are in government.
Yeah, but that will come to haunt him, even if you say that he is rewarding his friends for 2027. How do you talk about 2027 and if the economy goes south, it will go with you? Because first of all, you have to perform actually to reach 2027. But if we are going this direction, will he have a country? Will he have a government?
I doubt. Some people were saying that if he might be the first, he actually was the first vice president to ascend to the presidency right from the being a deputy president, and he might be the first one in the Kenyan history to be the first one with a single term in office. So he might be a president who is making history in both ways, being the first one ascending from the deputy presidency to the presidency, and being the first one who is going to be a one-term president, and that's a high possibility.
Now, let's talk about the Raila Truth and the Ruto. Now that they are going to talk, do you think something good is going to come out of their talk?
The two things. The optimistic me thinks there's something good that will come out of it. How? Because when the economy is so bad, he has no choice. He has no choice, because those people in the streets who came out will now be multiplying 10 times if they don't talk. Because when people are, you know, it's very hard to read people with empty stomachs. Yeah. They will revolt against you. Even your best friends will say, kama hakuna chakula utaniambia nini? So Raila, most people will now say Raila has a point. So he will have more people supporting him than before. That's the optimistic me, that they will talk because he has no choice but talk. Because one, the economy is not favoring his presidency. Two, the social unrest brings down the government in a very quick way, because they have no money. In a very quick way. Even when they were using the police in a very brutal way, those policemen are actually Kenyans themselves. Those policemen were fighting against their brothers and sisters on the streets. Yeah. There will come a time when they will step back and say, you know what, I can't do that. They will be given commands and they will say, I can't follow those commands. And then what next? Yeah. The economy will, the country is no longer there. So that's the reason why. However, the other skeptical part of me tells me the talks might collapse. The talks might collapse for two reasons. One, if he listens to the hardliners who are still not very happy that he toned down and he changed the course of their response to the demonstrations. Yeah, because there are very many of them. They are very close friends. All his close friends are really hardliners, from the deputy president to the majority leader. They are hardliners, and before they know it, especially those from central Kenya, they will discover that they are all walking around, and the public that they thought is behind them would now follow somebody else. So if you listen to them, then the talks will collapse, and when the talks collapse, then people will be back on the streets within a couple of weeks from now. I
think this was a good tone to focus on the president. Forget about looking back on as if they are in a campaigning mood, because anytime the Gachagua talks, he's always belittling. You know, there was a clip
communicating to the people, especially the people down there at the bottom of the pyramid. And that's my gift.
Kiongozi ambaye hasiti na hajuti kutoka ulikali haswa kwa mahasimu wake siasani. Wenye kipindi cha maandamano ya kiongozi Nahodha wa Raila Odinga wiki mbili zilizopita, Rigathi Gachagua alichukua usukani kumsuta na kumkabili kinara huyo wa upinzani.
It is a script for the last 4 elections. Akatolea Moi fujo, akaletwa kwa cooperation. Akatolea Kibaki fujo, akaletwa kwa nusu mkate. Akauzia Uhuru uoga, akanunua, akaletwa kwa handshake. This time round, it cannot work. President William Ruto na mimi sio watu ya kuuziwa uoga.
Kwa kila kikao
that is Vice President.
You know, in my humble opinion, I think there is a reason why Raila is powerful. He's not powerful because of anything. He's powerful because he connects with some people, and many people, many Kenyan people. And there is a reason he connects, because he associates and understands and tells them, you know what, you are in trouble, you are in problems, and I understand it, I get it. So if they focus on Raila and say this time round he will not get it, and maybe Raila sits back, somebody will emerge. It's not about Raila this time. It's about issues that Kenyans really are wanting to be addressed by the government. Raila embodies those issues. So he's an embodiment of those issues. So if our deputy president will know, why is Raila so powerful? Ask himself questions. Why is Raila so powerful? That every time he announces a woga. Why does it call it woga?
Even me, that's the surprise. And even as you talked about the hardliners, would they really accept it because they feel that their pride has been, even now what Ruto did, I think his supporters are not happy. Now, when they choose this team, even Raila has hardliners too. Why can't Ruto? These are the same people, 207, who were together, fighting together. Is it hard for them to go to a closed door meeting, Ruto and Raila, and they talk these things out themselves without the hardliners?
If I think they can, if they wanted to, just like that's what how the handshake came into being, where only Raila and the former president Uhuru Kenyatta sat in a room for hours, and they came out and agreed on a few things, and that's how the ceasefire happened. Now, if they let it stay with the hardliners, I'm telling you, Kenya is not headed in the right direction. They have too big of egos that I don't think they will arrive at any concessions. So if you put, I'm sorry, the deputy president as the head of the, I mean, you already know what he's going to come up with.
Yeah.
But if he puts moderates in there, people who really look at the bigger picture, maybe they will. The talks will yield something. Right? I think. I don't know. Just time.
You know, most of before Raila started the demonstrations, they castigated him. They thought it was his end. Even one of the newspaper cartoon was showing that that is Raila's political evolution. When he started, Moi must go, Kibaki must go, Uhuru must go, Ruto must go. Then they are saying that is now a time for that I must go. That is the caricature how they were portraying Raila. But do you think will the same newspaper put a caricature like that now that he has put the government down and they have to talk to him?
I don't think so. Those who are wishes, of course, when you see somebody talking about the future, we have wishes. Me and you know that everybody has their wish, and that's a wish that they put there. They cannot wish him away. Yeah. That's the hard truth. They cannot wish him away. So what perhaps is there to stay? Perhaps like his dad, who passed away at I think he passed away at the age of 84. He was still a political force when he passed away.
Yeah, he did.
And the one thing they are underestimating is Uhuru Kenyatta. They are underestimating him. They have really made a caricature of him. They have abused him, especially people from Central Kenya. They have really that's really very bad, especially from the deputy president, every time, every opportunity he finds, he talks down to the former president. He talks him down. And we can see the anger in him. We can see the vitriol in him.
Yeah.
For a leader who has been given power, I think the country.
And one of the things, I think what they did to Northland, I saw people demonstrate. I let him know, still the leadership in the central city is with Uhuru. And these people, I think when they went to attack the first family's property, I think that is an insult to a nation, for sure. It's like somebody can go attack George Washington's farm. Even if we were not there when George Washington was a president, people won't take it easily in America that somebody...
That's correct.
Yeah.
And really, if you look at it honestly, if Moi was never attacked, who had a brutal rule, where people were detained, people were killed, of course, I'm not saying the administration of Uhuru Kenyatta was that of a saint, but to attack him relentlessly really portrays them as people who were angry, and the reason why they came to power was not to serve, but for something else.
Was to revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was nice talking. Our time is fast over. Thank you for your time.
Thank you again. Hopefully the talk about talks will not corrupt. Let's hope that the next few weeks we'll be able to see Kenya going to the direction all of us want it to go.